It feels like it was just yesterday, yet it was countless years ago. I remember the events like Justinian himself. I do not know what has become of the greatest city in the world, but I do know the day that the city burned to the ground is something that will not be lost. Let me tell you the story of how my life burned with the city. It was the summer of 532 AD, starting in the great city of Constantinople, the trade place of everyone in the known world. It was in the evening. I was sitting at my dinner table with my mom, only beginning to write and read. We lived in a small house right next to some really creepy guy. Though it was unsettling, it was home, and it was located in a very desirable spot. When my dad came through the door, he announced that Justinian, our leader, raised taxes, and because he worked in a small shop in the arches of the Hippodrome, he knew all the gossips of the different chariot teams, consisting usually of the red, whites, greens, and blues. My dad told me to stay away because he knew the rich teams, greens and blues, were influential, setting up street gangs and grouping people by religion and social status. We all knew that the higher Justinian raised taxes, the angrier people got, because nobody liked him even from the beginning of his reign. My family, though just simple little people, mostly tried to stay out of trouble instead of plotting to riot like the blues and the greens. Those teams were always high-class society, so when they did something wrong, they thought they shouldn't be punished. I knew that Justinian was viewed as being harsh, always raised taxes just because of his obsession to recapture the western lands, and made strict laws which angered the rich, thinking they could get out of laws. I also knew that someday the people would revolt, but I didn't know that the events would happen in less than a week. I watched the rioters declare war, and chaos broke loose. Fighting, people setting buildings on fire, no one was safe, especially not Justinian. It was the 5th day of the battle, and my dad came home again from the Hippodrome, saying that Justinian and his closest senators are nowhere to be found. He said they think Justinian left. That creepy guy next door told me that most of the Senate was planning to dispose of Justinian, and even his own nephews were wanting to take over. I didn't know what to believe and started, well, crying. My dad again, though, caught my attention. He said the people have considered Hypatius as the new leader. Only after many years later did I find out that Justinian was not gone, but rather hiding in his palace, although he didn't want to leave because of the fear of being killed. His wife Theodora, though, came and persuaded him otherwise. By the words of Theodora, my opinion then is that the present time, above all others, is an inopportune for flight, even though it brings safety. Before I could even ask a question, though, sitting in my very same dinner table chair, our house caught on fire. Remember that creepy guy next door? Well, out he came and saved both Dad, Mom, and me. We landed outside and watched all we ever had collapse and burn. The world was so big, I thought. My dad grabbed me and my mom's hand as he ran all the way to his small shop in the Hippodrome where we locked ourselves in. We could feel the rioters above us and knew this would be the last night of the war. And without even thinking, I started to cry, realizing creepy guy was gone. I all of a sudden realized that 3 figures were approaching us. They broke the barriers. They said my mom and dad had to join the rioters above. Even though they were technically red, we didn't particularly support the chariot teams and didn't like fighting either. Forcefully, they grabbed my parents and took them away. Me being me, though, I followed and hid myself in between the large bleachers, trying to look for my parents. I didn't find them, but what I did see was Hypatius sitting on the throne pretending to be an emperor. I just wanted this to be over. Half of the city was burned. I didn't care who won. Strangely enough, though, I had hope in Justinian. My wish came true, yet also my worst fear. Justinian's greatest army, including Belisarius, the general, came through the gates. I remembered a smile coming down on my face until they took out their weapons. There was nothing I could do except watch the disaster. They came, killed everyone, including Hypatius, and left just like that. I was alone and went onto the field and stepped over everybody, until in the very back laid my mom and dad, and also a creepy dude who indeed saved me. But I never looked back. There was nothing I could do. Instead of looking at my dead parents, though, I climbed on top of the Hippodrome and looked at the once beautiful city. It was quiet, as you could imagine. That's where my story ends. What happens to me afterwards? It's not important. But Justinian was no normal guy, I can tell you.